Hello World Wide Web, I'm Shado, the internet personality with the best hair, and welcome back to Pumpkinhead Toberween giving mess. We're looking at Pumpkinhead II. The sequel to Pumpkinhead, obviously. Pumpkinhead II Blood Wings came out a good 5 years after the first. Or 6, depending on which release you go by. Despite it still being handled by MGM, not only does the story not follow the events of the first, but the writers and director are also completely different this time around as well. And the editor, thankfully enough, but along with all these changes of direction also came a change in target audience, as Pumpkinhead was a theatrical release, but Pumpkinhead 2 was produced direct-to-video. Yay! Storyline-wise, as I said, it has nothing to do with the first outside of the existence of Pumpkinhead. The film follows a group of stupid teenagers doing stupid things who unleash upon the world Pumpkinhead. This time, though, the monster has its own checkered past, as decades ago another group of stupid teenagers were doing stupid things. Who? What? Where? When? Why? How? Which? Any good? Let's take a look at Pumpkinhead II Blood Wings and find out. The movie opens in the distant past, 1958. You can tell it's the late 50s because everything's still in black and white. Miss Ossie, played by Lillian Chauvin, is leaving a plate of food out for Tommy, a local boy who lives out in the woods, played by J.P. Minogue. However, tragedy strikes dinner when a local group of teenagers track the deformed child down and decide to have a little fun with him.
We got him! Batter up! That's a single!
The wholesome family fun of beating a kid half to death with a baseball bat, which evidently Miss Ossie can feel. Because reasons.
Looks like we hooked us a big one, didn't we? And he's pretty too, isn't he? Isn't he?
Well, I guess beating up the local outcast isn't quite enough. Why not string him up and threaten him with a deadly weapon on top of it, eh? The rest of the guys seem to be really into it.
He's beautiful!
Okay! How fucking bored do you have to be? We're going out and finding a random kid to stab to death in the woods. Sounds like a remotely fun idea to pass the time. Just, there are 6 of these motherfuckers. Not one thought to maybe say, hey, you know, I'm gonna back away slowly and not cheer and laugh at this. Dumping the kid's body down the old mine shaft, they happily declare a job well done. Thank fuck we suddenly teleport over to today, where, unlike the 50s, child murder is no longer looked upon as America's pastime. Here we are introduced to the new sheriff for Farron Woods, Sean Braddock, played by Andrew Robinson.
Shh! Listen. You hear it?
What?
Silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence.
Who is only slightly less creepy than he was as his role as Frank's Skin in Hellraiser. The story goes, Sean here grew up in Farron Woods, but moved to New York, started a family, and then moved all the way back here, because Manhattan just wasn't the same after Jason showed up. His wife, Beth, played by Karen Kay, in what seems to be her final movie role, is worried this move might be tough on their daughter, though. Don't worry, it turns out Jenny Braddock, played by Amy Dolenz, is just fine with country life, especially since in between movies this small town morphed into your average Hollywood suburb setting, introducing a big-ass group of local teens.
Let me guess, you guys are the local badasses, right?
That's right.
Well, what helps is this movie hardly has any scenes where any other teenagers are even milling about in the background. The bar's not exactly set very high here. Being a city girl, Jenny feels the need to establish she has the biggest balls in town, agreeing to hang out with the delinquents in lieu of her first day attending the local school. These teens aren't the only miscellaneous characters to introduce, though. We've also got the local farmer Ernst, played by Joe Unger, his old high school friend, the local Judge Dixon, played by Steve Canale, Dr. Pettibone, played by Gloria Hendry, and while we're at it, why not throw in the mayor for good measure, Bubba, played by Roger Clinton.
Well, now I ain't got time for greetings. Marie, you got my guitar?
Sure do. Here you go, Mayor.
Why does the mayor keep his musical instruments in the back of the medical center? Is that attached to the guitar center? There's a point to the mayor's random appearance, though. It seems that their miscellaneous Nowhereville, with all the urban amenities you could want, does have some unsavory teenagers he might want to watch out for. Said teens just so happen to be the group that Jenny has fallen into, with such fun guys as Danny, the bad boy, played by J. Trevor Edmond, Marcy, the goth, played by Punky Brewster herself, Soleil Moon Frye, Paul, the stoner, played by Alexander Polinsky, and Marcy's boyfriend, Peter, the miscellaneous, played by Hill Harper. They're fucking around near the old mine shaft. A terrible place to hide from authority figures when you consider it looks like it's on the sheriff's daily patrol.
Come on, Jenny, I'll drive you home.
Dad.
No, he's right, Jen.
Yes, he will be driving her home. Very astute observation. Which he does, while the tail tucked between his legs bad boy looks on in an ominous glare. His father explains to her that they're bad kids, so therefore she shouldn't hang out with them.
You're a bright girl. You can see that, can't you?
Yeah, I can see a lot of things.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Considering how deep an effect this line has on the overall plot, not a fucking thing. Thus, that night she goes right back out with the same group of miscreants. While Jenny is a New York City teenage badass, these pampered country boy antics of driving with the headlights turned off are just too much for her. After all, they might...
100 points.
Alright, now just to make it to the West Coast before Frankenstein catches up with you. They must be completely new to the concept of death race, though, as they stop completely to make sure she's okay. My concern is as they can't find the body, it seems unlikely they'll get the points for that kill. However, Jenny insists they go where the old woman lives to make sure she's okay. Thus, stomping through a grave on the way there, they reach her house, don't find her in there, and start rummaging through her things.
What is it? I don't know. Ask Marcy.
Don't ask me. This stuff is way beyond Ouija boards.
Great! The dark arts practitioner's experience with the occult is limited to what's been published by Hasbro. Seems to be enough for the woman to decipher the filthy ShamWow, realizing this is a spell to raise the dead. As these teenagers are unbelievably bored, they figure this is a fun way to spend the rest of the night. However, just then, Miss Osi comes home, but is considerably less threatening when the kids realize she's blind.
These eyes can see more than you know, boy.
Okay, if she beats the shit out of them all Daredevil style, I'll be impressed.
Give it to me! Give it to me!
Or Danny could just clock the bitch. Even when the horror movie stupidity is this convoluted, it's still worth fighting for. She'll be out for a while, so the group heads a whole 50 feet away to the grave in front of her house. Seems this blood of the damned has to be poured directly on the dead. So, through a little movie magic, they bring in an invisible excavator to do hours worth of digging. Therefore, Marcy can pour the blood while Danny recites the spell.
Seared with pain.
Look, I don't need thrills this badly, guys. I'm out of here.
Maybe you could have decided that before spending God knows how long digging up a dead motherfucker? Or breaking into an old lady's house? Or assaulting her? Or running her over? But she's not dead. She's simply fallen and can't get up without some more plot working to stop her. Yeah, that was the Necronomicon again. This same one from The Evil Dead, again. So, I guess that means we're up to Freddy versus Jason versus Ash versus Pumpkinhead. The problem is the candles they lit, oh, Lord knows why this lady owned them, well, they tip over and light the linens on fire. Thus her home begins to burn down around her, while the gang of the dumbest fuckers in horror finish the spell to summon the very thing that's gonna kill them all.
Shit looks like it's a dud.
Man, I was really hoping that necromancy was real and we were gonna summon a demon of vengeance to kill all of us. Man, this fucking town's so beat. But Jenny is still nearby and realizes the old woman's house is on fire. Everyone suddenly cares, so they rush to her aid. Then they realize that means dealing with fire, which is mildly inconvenient, so they just say fuck it and leave. Meaning they fail to witness that the spell did work, summoning a demon to kill them all. But even worse than that.
George, close the road off next to the mill, okay?
Right.
The set department decided to represent a burnt down house with some unburnt pieces of wood. How difficult is it to make a convincing looking pile of shit? Don't worry about the old woman though, as it turns out she's safe and sound in the hospital. Slowly dying, but still alive. And besides, Danny is here to keep spirits up.
Everybody's gonna keep their mouth shut. And nobody's gonna get wise. You got it?
Or threaten all of his friends into submission. Come to think of it, why are any of these people even following him around in the first place? It's about as appealing as polio for preschoolers. Somehow that's just another reason to love him. However, with the old lady's house burnt down and the demonic spell cast on the corpse, Ernst realizes it was a waste of time and money to get his hunter's license.
I ain't no hunter no more. I'm the hunted. 'Cause it's back. And ain't none of us safe till he gets what he come for.
And I'm telling you right now, he ain't gonna take no store credit. He doesn't bother saying exactly who's coming, but it's okay. It doesn't take long for us to find out anyway, as we watch him tend to his animals that night. Mundane tasks in a horror movie. They never let you down.
Lord God, save me! Come on, Satan!
Okay, I'm not entirely sure what to be more confused by. The noises coming out of Pumpkinhead, the terrible cinematography, or the fact that Ernst is yet another character who thinks that you need to go into melee range with a shotgun. It's not a video game, they work from a bit further back. The horror only gets worse when we see obvious strings holding up both Ernst and Pumpkinhead before he finally finishes him off. Not sure if his livestock called the police or what, but the next morning Sheriff Braddock arrives to investigate what remains.
Manhattan dumpsters have got nothing on this.
Come on, Sheriff, you know that's not true. Jason Takes Manhattan predates this movie by 4 years. Judge Dixon doesn't think much of this, dismissing it as a wildcat attack. However, Braddock questions the idea that wildcats are capable of tagging ominous symbols on the wall, but the judge doesn't care what he thinks. No bother, Sean can discuss this over supper with Dr. Pettibone, who is at his house eating supper. No explanation there, but at least she realizes what movie series we're in.
Pumpkinhead.
Pumpkinhead? What is that, some kind of a fairy tale?
There is a legend about it around these parts.
So, I mean, if you're in Trenton and there's a murder, I really don't think the police kick around the idea for too long there was a Jersey Devil.
There is a nursery rhyme about it, isn't there?
No, a poem by Ed Justin. It's what the first movie was based on. Extremely loosely, but still. He skips over 75% of the poem anyway, only going over the last 4 lines that don't really add anything to the movie, but it does get to Jenny, causing her to have a nightmare about, boning Danny. Not exactly sure how one leads to the other here. But she does realize he's a total asshole, and therefore that dream was terrifying. Wrong franchise. Again. And how's this supposed to work? Pumpkinhead's got no dick. But it was all just a dream! Obviously. Pumpkinhead's not stalking Jenny. He's far too busy stalking another victim. But what could this one have done to earn death by slasher villain?
My wife says you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
She just must have forgot the way you like to be, kid.
Sex, adultery, listening to country music. Yeah, he's dead. This lovely specimen would be Red Byers, played by R.A. Mihailoff. You know, Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. That means we get another horror icon, Death Battle.
Jesus Christ!
However, considering he's lacking his motherfucking chainsaw, that does leave him at a considerable disadvantage here. The lady he was with lucks out, though, having just stepped out to fetch some cigarettes from the car. At least until Pumpkinhead tosses Red through the wall, closing in on her until a sudden jump cut brings us back to the sheriff. Yeah, it's already time to investigate the scene, which is marked with a symbol strikingly similar to the one on Ernst's home.
That's what it is, you know. Blood wings.
That's the subtitle of this movie. Dear God, I was hoping it was metaphorical. It seems Red was a postal worker and a thief, judging by the packages he kept rather than deliver. Still in the original boxes, so any patrol officer could solve this mystery in less than a second. But there's still the question of how this man was connected to Ernst, and who could want them both dead. Hey, finally, a suspect! Quick, shoot her before she can complicate this case any further! Sadly, the doctor only shoots her up with some sedative, but on the plus side, what she saw scared her so much that her mind shut down. Therefore, she provides fuck all for clues. Oh well, surely the word has spread about the horrible murders happening around town. Which isn't spreading nearly fast enough. I've yet to see this man do anything to warrant said affection. Oh, but she actually did hear about the death and dismemberment thing, which is making her feel concerned. Telling Danny that her father would understand if they just tell him they accidentally burnt the old woman to death only results in her boyfriend shouting her down. Before the rest of the group of miscreants drive up and she decides to exit stage left. It seems everyone else is also spooked because of the string of murders and thinks the spell might have actually worked. Something Danny finds preposterous.
Danny will take you out there and show you that no monster crawled out of that box. And then maybe you'll leave me the fuck alone.
Wait, why do you need Danny's permission for this anyway? He's clearly not the only character with a car in this town. Before they make it, though, we first have to take a trip down memory lane with Sheriff Braddock. Turns out, Red had a safe deposit box with clues in it. This brings up the story of a deformed boy, Tommy, who everyone in town was terrified of, saying he was a monster or a cannibal. Not Sean, though. He found him playing one day by the inexplicably popular mineshaft. He even saved his life. Then moved away and never saw him again. After that, of course, Tommy got murdered.
Why would a retired postman keep hidden under lock and key clippings about a deformed boy who died 35 years ago?
Because a small town angle becomes a lot harder to maintain when you have to bring out the CSI super technology to solve the case. They still fail to put two and two together, though, so let's just go back to the teens who have discovered that that body they raised from the dead actually raised from the dead. Not that that shuts Danny up. He insists there's a logical explanation for the missing corpse. Nevertheless, he instructs the group to meet up at his place tonight, while Pumpkinhead moves on to deal with miscreants running a cockfighting ring, including Keith Knox, played by the man, the legend, Kane Hodder.
What kind of way is that to treat our baby sister? You got a lot of room to talk. What the hell's that supposed to mean? I ain't the one sleeping with her.
I get the feeling that this movie is trying to establish really fast why these characters deserve to die. Or, maybe, like Danny, every single person in this town is a soul full of dog shit. Thus, Pumpkinhead kicks on the strobe light and rolls in to murder the two men, leaving the woman alive to witness the whole thing. As luck would have it, though, she's a mute, and the police don't think to try and ask her what she saw in writing. They don't need her eyewitness account, though, because the sheriff has a hunch.
Ernst, Byers, now the Knox brothers, they're all somehow tied in together. And the answer's got to be with this.
Blood wings. Wait. Blood wings. They were all hunted down. Dear God, that must be it. Quick! Call Handsome Jack! Mordecai's gone rogue! Arguably, that's a saner line of thinking, as Sean instead starts studying folklore about how deformed children are caused by women fucking demons and shit. No time for that, as the smell of smoke on his daughter's shirt hints to them that they were there when the house burnt down. No time for that, as the coroner's report for Tommy came in showing that he had no family but was adopted by Miss O.C. the Hermit. Thus, they should speak with her. No time for that because she's dead. I ain't finished yet! Cut me, Doc. Cut me. Seems despite having a pulse all of a sudden, Miss O.C. is still dead and decides to spend this time spewing exposition at the characters, going so far as to detail Tommy's backstory, including details about the conception.
His papa was the one you called Pumpkinhead.
The legend is true.
I still don't understand how this is supposed to work. Pumpkinhead's got no dick! He just doesn't. He's got the anatomy of a Namekian. She doesn't go into that much detail, but does point out that despite us knowing how the Pumpkinhead spell works, this time it's completely different. First of all, Pumpkinhead being born out of a Tommy means he's seeking vengeance for Tommy against a group with red wings.
And when he killed them 6 boys, he'll go after the kids.
You'd think the kids were fucked from the get-go, summoning Pumpkinhead and damning their souls to hell, but them being connected to OC instead of the kids does make that a lot harder to explain. Almost as hard as Miss O.C. dying, for real this time, and Pumpkinhead not also dying with her. But hearing her call them Red Wings instead of Blood Wings gives Sean an idea, and flipping through old records he finds the Red Wings Motor Club. Lo and behold, 5 of its 6 members have already been killed off by Pumpkinhead, with only 1 remaining.
Merle Dixon. It's Judge Dixon. It's gonna kill the judge next.
Wouldn't that be some shit if you just turned the page and there was a Hot Wings Enthusiast Club with a completely different 6th member? And if you remember, Danny is Judge Dixon's son, so all the kids are meeting up at his house, because he's such a charmer. Now they scurry off to the spare dark cabin in the back, where the rest of the characters can point out the old lady died, it's Danny's fault, and they're not gonna cover for him anymore because he's kind of a dick.
You do what you want, Danny. We're gonna go to the sheriff.
Like hell you are.
Let's get out of here.
Nobody's going anywhere in Charles.
What the fuck are you doing, man?
Get on the couch now.
How do you have any friends? What, do you drive around in your nice car and kidnap the motherfuckers at gunpoint? So, like the first movie, one character holds up the rest, only this time it's not for nearly as good a reason. It's not like he'd be convicted, the judge is his father, and on top of that... It looks like court's gonna be out of session in this town for their foreseeable future. Realizing that Pumpkinhead is close, Danny figures they need to get to the car and escape. By they, he means Paul, all by himself. Because fuck efficiency when you can cause this instead.
Nobody move!
Come on, Danny. An armed society is a polite society. Nobody move! Please. After Paul gets thrown through the window, everyone just says fuck it and runs for their lives. As we got less than 10 minutes of movie to go and way too many surviving characters, Pumpkinhead makes short work of Marcy impaling her and pinning both her and Peter to a tree. Never mind them, it's time for the little shit who I've waited all movie to see killed, Danny. His gun does fuck all to stop Pumpkinhead, so he just stands there and screams like a bitch. Good start, Pumpkinhead. Now shit down his neck. This means the only one left for Pumpkinhead to kill is Jenny. But wait! Sheriff Braddock is caught up and calls out to Tommy, reminding him that he saved his life way back when, and convinces the monster to not rip his daughter limb from limb. That's all well and good, but then the posse of assholes arrive who just shoot the fuck out of Pumpkinhead. Even better, now guns actually work against the monster, and it's a sad ending where we see Tommy killed all over again in the same inexplicably popular mine entrance they've been using all movie. And it seems that a dead Pumpkinhead still works as emergency kindling. Anyway, that was Pumpkinhead II, Bloodwings, and I get the feeling they really weren't trying with this movie. The funny thing is, while the story doesn't match well at all with the original, the plot does sort of work on its own, and in many ways the movie is more balanced than the original, but is clearly made on a much lower budget. The acting, cinematography, and special effects are all distinctly lower quality than its predecessor. The mystery aspect sort of worked, but in many ways was also executed poorly. The opening scene spoils the question of what happened in the past immediately. There's no other hints at all as to what the fuck the Red Wings might be referring to. Also, while the death of Billy in the original movie was at least marginally believably set up as an accident, the little band of psycho killers who in between them have a body count of 1 is considerably less so. Still possible, I understand, but it also means you lack sympathy for most of Pumpkinhead's victims. That seems to be the big difference between this and the first. Pumpkinhead was a simple monster flick done professionally enough that it felt bigger than it was, while Pumpkinhead 2 had a decent setup and mystery, but falls closer to Carnosaur levels of cinematography. It's not absolutely hard, but you really gotta be a fan of horror to get much out of this, coming in at 2 beat-up innocent old ladies out of 5. It gets the job done, but there are far better options available. Thank you all for watching. I've been Shado, and remember, if the Necronomicon pops up in many more movie series, then Super Slash Brothers could actually be canon.
Mm-hmm.